Okay, so how many of us start our day with a nice cup of coffee with milk?
I know I do. It's like a ritual.
Right. But what if I told you that that comforting morning habit could be messing with your digestion?
Unfortunately, it's true. When we drink milk coffee on an empty stomach, it can cause a whole cascade of issues in our gut.
So, for this deep dive, we've looked into a ton of articles on the effects of coffee and milk, especially when consumed before anything else.
Exactly. And what we found is pretty fascinating and a little bit alarming. We really want to help you, the listener, understand what's going on in your body when you have that first sip and how to enjoy your coffee without those unwanted side effects.
So, first things first, what happens when we drink coffee on an empty stomach?
Well, coffee is naturally acidic. It's got a pH somewhere between 4.5 and 5.5, which is similar to a tomato.
Okay, so it's acidic, but how does that affect us?
When you drink coffee on an empty stomach, that acidity triggers your stomach to produce even more hydrochloric acid, or HCl, which is the acid that helps us digest food. But when there's no food to digest, all that extra acid can start to irritate the stomach lining, leading to inflammation, bloating, and discomfort. And we even have a fancy name for it: gastritis.
Oh, I've heard of that. That doesn't sound fun.
Not at all. And adding milk to the mix kind of complicates things.
Oh, so?
Milk contains proteins like casein and whey. In that highly acidic environment of your stomach, those proteins can actually curdle, making them harder to digest.
Ugh, that's not a pleasant image.
Not really. And if you're lactose intolerant, drinking milk without food can make things even worse.
Because,
Well, because without other food to slow down digestion, the lactose in the milk hits your system all at once, which can lead to, gas and cramps.
makes sense. So it's not just the coffee itself, it's the combination of coffee and milk on an empty stomach.
Precisely. And the research backs this up. A 2019 study in the Journal of Gastroenterology found that drinking coffee alone can increase gastric acid secretion by 15–20%.
Wow, so adding milk is like pouring fuel on the fire.
You could say that. And all this excess acid can lead to another common problem: heartburn.
Oh yeah, that burning sensation in your chest.
Exactly. It happens when stomach acid flows back up into the esophagus.
And how does milk coffee contribute to that?
Well, a couple of ways. First, the fat in milk slows down digestion, which means that acid stays in your stomach longer.
Okay.
And then the caffeine in coffee can actually weaken the lower esophageal sphincter, or LES.
And what does the LES do?
It's a muscle that acts like a valve between your stomach and esophagus. It's supposed to keep the acid down where it belongs.
So coffee and milk together kind of loosen that valve.
Exactly. And the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, just back in 2020, pointed to coffee as a major trigger for GERD, or gastroesophageal reflux disease, which is chronic acid reflux.
Okay, so now we're talking long-term issues, not just a little bit of discomfort.
Right, and it doesn't stop there. This whole milk coffee on an empty stomach thing can also affect our nutrient absorption.
I was just going to ask about that. Like, can it actually prevent us from getting the good stuff from our food?
It can. You see, coffee contains compounds called tannins and polyphenols.
I've heard of those. They're antioxidants, right?
They are. And they have some health benefits. But when you consume them on an empty stomach, they can bind to certain nutrients and prevent them from being absorbed properly.
Like which nutrients?
Iron is a big one. Tannins can reduce iron absorption by up to 80%.
80%. That's huge.
It is. And over time, this could lead to iron deficiency, which can cause fatigue, weakness, and other problems.
Wow, I had no idea it was that significant. What else?
Coffee can also increase calcium excretion, which isn't good news for bone health. And that imbalance in stomach acid we talked about can also mess with vitamin B12 absorption.
This is all starting to make sense now. All those mid-morning energy slumps and cravings.
And speaking of energy slumps, we can't forget about the impact on blood sugar.
Right, because I've heard that coffee can give you a quick boost, but then you crash pretty hard afterward.
Exactly. And milk plays a role in that too.
How so?
Well, milk contains lactose, which is a natural sugar. And coffee can trigger the release of cortisol, which is a stress hormone that can also raise blood sugar levels.
Okay, so it's like a double whammy for your blood sugar.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
This combo can lead to those rapid blood sugar spikes and then those energy crashes and intense cravings we're talking about.
Ugh, I know those cravings all too well.
And the thing is, if you keep putting your body through these blood sugar roller coasters, it can contribute to insulin resistance, which increases your risk for type 2 diabetes down the line.
Yikes, that's serious stuff.
It is. And a 2018 study published in Diabetes Care found that having caffeine first thing in the morning led to higher blood glucose levels in healthy adults.
So even if you don't have diabetes, it's still something to be mindful of.
Absolutely. And to make matters worse, this whole milk coffee on an empty stomach routine can even increase your risk of stomach ulcers.
Stomach ulcers, now that sounds painful.
It is. Ulcers are sores that develop on the lining of your stomach.
And how does coffee and milk play into that?
Remember all that irritation we talked about? Well, over
Mhm.
time, that constant exposure to acid can erode the protective lining of your stomach, making it more susceptible to ulcers.
Oh, I see. So it's like wearing away at the stomach's defenses.
Precisely. Plus, it can create a more favorable environment for H. pylori bacteria, which is one of the main causes of ulcers. And the World Journal of Gastroenterology in 2020 even issued a warning about coffee's potential role in aggravating and possibly even contributing to the development of ulcers.
So it sounds like we've got a lot to consider when it comes to our morning coffee routine.
We do, but don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom.
So there's hope for us coffee lovers.
Absolutely. The key is timing.
Meaning,
Instead of drinking your milk coffee first thing in the morning, try having it 1 to 2 hours after you've eaten breakfast.
makes sense. So your stomach has something to work with.
Right. The food acts as a buffer against the acid, and your digestive system is already primed and ready to handle the milk proteins.
So fuel up first, then caffeine up.
Exactly. And even if you're in a rush, just having a small snack before your coffee can make a big difference. A banana, some nuts, a piece of toast, anything to give your stomach a little something to work with.
Okay, got it. What about switching up the type of coffee we drink?
That's another great strategy. Black coffee without milk is generally less acidic and easier on your digestion.
But what if you can't live without that creamy texture?
Then try plant-based milks like almond milk or oat milk. They're usually lower in lactose, which can help with digestion. And if you're really sensitive to acidity, cold brew coffee is often a good option.
Cold brew, huh? I've heard it's less acidic.
It is. The brewing process results in a lower acid content.
Okay, good to know. So to sum it all up, what's the main takeaway for our listeners?
Milk coffee is okay, but never on an empty stomach. Eat first, wait a bit, and then enjoy your coffee guilt-free.
Easy enough. And don't forget those alternative options: black coffee, plant-based milk, cold brew.
Exactly. It's all about finding what works best for your body.
This has been a fascinating deep dive. I never realized how much that simple cup of coffee could affect our bodies.
It's amazing, isn't it? We often don't think twice about our daily habits, but they can have a huge impact on our health.
Absolutely. It really makes you stop and think about all the other little things we do every day that might be worth a closer look.
For sure. What seemingly harmless routines could you be doing that might be silently impacting your well-being?
Food for thought indeed.
Food for thought.